What's good, everybody? It's Big Game James, man. We're back in the building. You know, we do the Cowboy Stains, Dallas Mavericks on the side, but you know what? We're doing that roundabout, coming back with the high school, checking out the high school athletes out there. And one of the interviews I had early before the season started with Mr. Daniel Simon, he's back in the building again. And it's a little different now because before we talked, he wasn't committed, but now he's already committed and he still has a year left. So we're going to jump into this exciting interview. But first, introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself before we jump in the interview.
Hey everybody, I'm Daniel Simon from Winneconne, Wisconsin, and I'm a class of 2024 defensive end. And as he just said, I signed with South Dakota State. So really excited about this.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for you, and I wanted you to say your city and state because that city would tear me up. So I said I'm gonna let him go ahead and say that. You know, that was the smooth pass and the assist over to Daniel Simon, so you can go ahead and do that. But let's jump right into it, man. And first of all, congratulations on the recent signing. I know that's super exciting for you, and we're going to talk about that. But let's talk about your junior season. We talked in the very beginning, you know, how, you know, the outlooks that you probably had as a team and as yourself. So just kind of give me in a nutshell how you felt about your season first, and then let's talk about your play after that.
So yeah, it didn't go quite as we planned. We did win our rivalry game, which is always huge. It's a pretty big tradition. I think it's been going for 50 years, so to be able to win that was huge. But ended up making it level 1 playoffs and unfortunately got knocked out there. So like I said, it didn't really go how we had planned. So it's something to build off of for sure. And honestly, just left a bad taste in a lot of our mouths about just how we sent our seniors out. So kind of coming back for revenge this coming year. So really excited about that.
Well, that's definitely good because now you're going to be the senior, so you're going to be dealing with that, kind of leading the charge with that. What do you think you kind of learned during the season about yourself and your team?
I will say something I learned about myself. It's just once you get out there, kind of just getting the nerves off your shoulders. I learned that I'm way stronger in a few things than I thought I was at first. Obviously, it's just getting confident in that. And this year was my first year really holding down starting jobs on the varsity field. So it was really just finding confidence in myself and my playing ability. So, and honestly, as far as team goes, I kind of discovered that we have quite the run game, and really exciting watching our quarterback and running back go and run outside. So that's something new about our team.
That's good. Hey, that's a good thing. Are both of those guys returning?
Yes, sir. They're gonna
All
be
right.
seniors with us. So
All right, so then you guys got definitely looking for revenge and something to look for. But now let's talk about your play as well, because you were just talking about you were like a part-time starter as your sophomore season, came more of a starter your junior season, and look what happened. You got a scholarship. So that's a testament to your talent and what you really bring to the table. So we talked about some things. You had the prototypical size already, about 6'5", 6'6", already in the building. So you don't see a lot of guys like that playing the defensive end or even linebacker position. So talk about that, how you kind of felt in, how'd you feel like how your play was this season?
I will say, if you guys or anybody gets a chance to watch my highlight tape, you'll notice most of my game film on the defensive side is actually towards the end of the season. So something that ended up happening is we had quite a gap of just no players on the offensive side of things. So I ended up holding down the left tackle, the right tackle position most of the year, and it came down to finally like the last 3 games, which happened to be playoffs, our conference championship, and then a big rivalry we have against a team called Wapaka. So really what ended up happening is just majority of the year starting offensive line, rotating in second string, second wave defensive line. But then, like I said, as it got closer to the end of the year, I started starting both ways. And like I said, got confidence in both sides. But mainly 3 games defensive. That was all I really needed to kind of flourish and show my abilities. I will say it was I'd say it was an eye-opener to most of the fans and parents in the stands because they'd see me on the offensive line, not really seeing how I could explode through the backfield.
Right.
I don't know, got out there, started lighting the quarterback up, and everybody's really excited. So like I said, we're really pumped for this coming year. So
Yeah, so I know everybody was like, "Hey, what the heck have y'all been doing? You been having playing offensive tackle, offensive line. You put him on defensive line, and killing people out there. Well, you need that's who you need to play him,
yes,
because
sir.
we because we was already talking about that because we saw the tape last year as a sophomore. We saw the glimpses of it. How you were blowing up the quarterback, blowing up the line of scrimmage, and with that size, and you played a little bit of defensive tackle too. As a sophomore, did you play inside a little bit as well? Or did you strictly play defensive end?
So it was exactly how you put it then this year as well. I shifted around everywhere. I was playing nose guard a couple of games, defensive tackle, out to edge, and even just edge rusher. So it's really wherever South Dakota State wants me, I can play. So
Well, I definitely tell them, hey, he can probably play the offensive line, but he's doing that for the team. Let's put him at the defensive line because that's where he's at. That's your position. Now, I want to ask you something because I seen on your Twitter. Name somebody who you kind of patting your game after. I kind of been asking a lot of the athletes, who do you watch and who do you kind of pattern your game after? I've seen some tape. I think it's JJ Watt on there, but I'm figuring, I'm thinking maybe he could be a guy. But tell me in your own words, who do you kind of maybe pattern your game after?
so hit it right on the head there. JJ Watt. I know I think we talked about this last time, but just really growing up watching him kind of just go bull rush everything. And obviously I'm going to have to kind of tune in and see how I can be a little more skillful instead of just ram through everything. But definitely JJ Watt. I'll say a second guy that's kind of popped up is Aiden Hutchinson this past year. You know, how he comes out of the 2-point stance. I even remember watching him. I think he was back as like a cornerback and got that interception for one of their games. So really just anybody current, I'll say any current edge rushers. I try to watch as many as I can. I know Micah Parsons has come up a couple of times with a few of his moves. And like I said, Aiden Hutchinson, say Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa as well. So it's really just anybody and everybody that's at that level. So
I feel you. You got some guys, definitely some guys, especially with Hutchinson, the way he came in at like 9 sacks. I think he had like 3 interceptions. I mean, the arrows are definitely pointing up. And I like how he went over to Detroit because I kind of want them to get better. You feel what I'm saying? So he's definitely a building block. So you mentioned all those guys and you were talking about the bull rush. So obviously you're getting ready to go to some more camps. So let's talk about that. What do you think when you're heading into some of these camps and now you're more of a high profile player? People know about you. You've already signed. So you have a little bit of juice behind you. What do you think you want to kind of show at these camps in your final season going forward?
So it's honestly, it's going to just be kind of putting myself back out there. You know, for a couple of years when I was going to these camps, it was just kind of back of the pack, not really showing off or, doing anything impressive. So it's kind of just going to be coming and really showing what I have to bring to the table and kind of just building up some hype before I head out to South Dakota. So
Yeah. So I feel you. So you feel like you're trying to announce yourself, really let the world really know who Daniel Simon is, huh?
I'd say so. I mean, I haven't changed too much, but like I said, I do want to get out there and show them that I can put some good moves out and get through a good offensive line. So
Definitely, definitely. So, what do you think? Do you want to kind of add to your game heading into your last year as well? Definitely, you're probably going to. I don't know what the position is. You're going to be playing on, the line this year. But let's say you're playing full time defensive end. What do you think you want to kind of add to your tool? Because you said you don't want to strictly bull rush. What do you think you want to add to your tool? Do you want to strictly want to be on the edge? You like playing that defensive tackle? Can you stand up? What do you think?
um, that's kind of tough right now. I will say for South Dakota State, they are recruiting me as a defensive end, so it's kind of
Hmm.
going to be as many moves as I could get down to
Right.
kind of handle the edge. So I'll say a move that I want to get down is probably going to be that spin or just a hesitation onto the outside because anytime you see that hit correctly, it's pretty impressive. And I don't know, I definitely have the explosiveness to kind of work the edge a little better than I have. So
Yeah, and I definitely want to see it. Like I said, you see a lot of edge guys, high school coming out to 6'2", 6'3", but when you're coming in at your size, you're coming, like I said, the prototypical size. So all you have to do is kind of just hone your talent, kind of just hone your skills. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're going to coach you up when you get there. They're going to help you get bigger and stronger. So I'm just really excited to see what you're going to do coming in this senior season. So Obviously, you have goals. You want to win a state championship. You want to get revenge. But what are some of your personal goals, along with some team goals? Since you're the senior now, what are some of kind of your team goals that you personally want to maybe lead to the younger people under you now?
So one big thing that I've been pushing for is kind of just encouraging the rest of the guys to go for their dreams. It's here in Winneconne. I remember every time I would come in and kind of talk about my goal of playing at the Division 1 level, it was, that's not really that realistic here because we are in a smaller division in a smaller town, and obviously not really playing at the level of competition we want to be playing at. So it's one of my goals is going to be to push other guys to shoot for their dreams, even if they don't seem realistic at that point. Obviously with my recruitment, it kind of picked up out of nowhere, and I was like, are you serious? So kind of got to be ready. And honestly, this next season is going to be me doing my best to leave a hole in the locker that I have. I don't know. I kind of felt that way freshman year. There was a couple of guys that I had just idled, coming from JV and getting to suit up for varsity a couple of times. It was like, hey, I should probably be trying to be like this guy. So I want to turn into that for a couple of freshmen we have, and I don't know, kind of leave a good shadow to Winneconne.
Well, like you said, coming from a small school, because I know when the school I went to wasn't big at the time. So if anybody signed with a major school, it was like a big thing. Everybody was talking about it. It was like, oh, who just signed right here? It was everybody like in the town was already talking about it. So that's a huge thing in itself. So that's a good pressure. You feel me? Like you said, you want to leave a good mark. You've already made a set signing. A lot of people, you're gaining steam, and this not just this just opened the door for you, but this opens the door for your other players, because now you got a school who recruited you. Now those schools start coming and start looking at your other players, and then other schools start coming. So basically, when you start doing those type of things, you start the pipeline. So it's a great thing that what you've already done in that short period. And so I'm excited to see what you're going to do in your senior season. But let's talk about some other things, because you're not just playing football, you're a multi-sport athlete. And one of the sports that I like for football players to play, besides, playing basketball, I like that, or track, depending on if you're like a receiver. But if you're in the trenches, I always say a guy should wrestle. I just feel like if you should wrestle if you're in the trenches, and if you are a good wrestler and you're in the trenches, I feel like you have the advantage over somebody or not. So let's talk about that, because you play another sport. And what is that sport?
Wrestling. So you hit that pretty hard, and it was this past year was really exciting for me. Obviously, like I told you earlier, we had 5 times in a row we had won conference, which is pretty huge for us. I think our school had only won conference like back in 2002, and then going into the 90s. So we kind of broke the losing streak and started a pretty good winning streak here. So really excited about it. It was really my second year to kind of get the shot at the varsity level for wrestling, and probably my second year of solid wrestling altogether. So really cool, really good motivation. I will say they always put wrestlers onto kind of the top shelf of great guy, great athlete, and it's a tough sport, and I'll give it its credit. It's put me through the ringer multiple times, and just really, really glad I made the choice to do it. So
Yeah, and I think so as well, especially with the grappling and things of that nature. I think it's going to be easier for when people are and you're learning more of the moves coming off the edge. I think that wrestling is just going to make an easy transition for you to smoothly do it. I just seen it, and I'm telling you, dog, I'm excited because you got the size, you wrestling, you got all the tools, and then you, like I said, you only played like 3 games where you could really show what you can do, and look what happened. So that arrow is trending up. So we're going to see some good things from you this season. So, I'm not going to hold you too much longer. What is, last year, want to go out as a senior? What's your own personal goal? Obviously, your team goals, what you want to do. We definitely love that. But what's your own personal goal for maybe yourself?
kind of just what I said earlier is just going to be setting a good example for these guys coming up. I don't really, I mean, every year I've kind of come just close to making the conference list and then not really being there. Obviously, playing 3 games at defensive line doesn't really help my odds, but
Right.
like I said, just setting a good example for the younger guys and really just showing the community, what we can do as a team, and hopefully, like I said, bringing our names back up in competition level. And like I said, getting our revenge. That's going to be number one on my list, is beating Xavier and Fox Valley Lutheran, because those are two teams that always come in and they're like, it's just Winneconne, but like I said, now this is going to be our senior year, and we all got pretty bad taste in our mouth from losing close games. And I don't know, we're really just excited about getting those shots again, and I don't know, setting a good example. So
That's cool. That's cool. Well, let's before we end here, let's talk about your signing. That's the exciting part. So, you had some schools. You had Army. You had Air Force, Appalachian State. You had schools kind of, you said, coming out of nowhere. So when you started getting those offers, tell me how that felt.
So it was really shocking. I guess you always hear, how it happens for other guys. They just get a phone call or kind of a text message from their coach, and they're just like, "Hey, you got a coach that wants to talk to you on the phone. Give him a call. Here's his number." And I will say for me, only two of my offers, South Dakota State and Augustana University, came from in person. So it was kind of like my first offer came from Air Force. So it was over the phone and just talking with the coach. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, we're going to offer you a spot." I had to sit down. I mean, every time I heard this, I had to sit down and kind of be like, it's finally happening. And
Right.
It's just a lot of work finally coming true. And I will say the one thing that I do want to focus on and let people know is, even though that I got the offer, it doesn't mean that the work's anywhere near finished. It's just now the work begins, and I can focus on having a good senior year. That was part of the reason I committed early, is just to kind of have a free, fun senior year of go play football, enjoy high school, and know where I'm going to college. So.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'm not trying to throw nothing in the air. There's been a lot more schools that are going to be coming after you, and I'm just going to be letting you know that. So, happened to my cousin. My cousin's going to LSU right now. He's actually already been. He graduated early. He went to spring camp. His name is Ryan Yates. Remember, I told you about him. But he went early. But Oklahoma was coming hard. He was LSU, and Oklahoma was coming hard at the scene at the last minute. But he let everybody know I'm solid with LSU and nobody else. So they're going to be coming after you. So just get ready for it. Just make sure there are a lot more schools going to be. You sure you committed, right? Are you sure, right? Because we got this right here. So just be ready for that. But we're excited about that. So what made you sign, or what made you kind of go with South Dakota State? What brought you there, and what kind of sealed the deal for you? What better than the other schools?
So I guess that's a question a lot of people have been asking. It's funny when they ask, they're like, "So South Dakota, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere," and I kind of have to agree with them, But before I knew South Dakota State existed, even I had the same opinion. What is South Dakota? It's basically just a bunch of farmland and hill country, and I don't know. So once I got out there, we got out there for our first visit, which was a game day. They were playing Illinois State, so it was a conference game, and I think it was like 8 degrees outside. Snow was coming down as they're playing this game, and I'm like, "Oh, this is brutal." Was this the right decision to come out here, even just for this one visit? And honestly, from there, it kind of sparked my interest. I'm like, holy crap, these guys are having a blast outside. It's brutal. It's freaking cold, but they're having a blast playing with each other. And kind of that first visit, we got to talk to a couple of players, and not really necessarily talk with the coaches, but just heard from some of the fans of level of people and quality of people and players that go to South Dakota State, and really just saw that from our first visit. So like I said, it wasn't really coaches that had influenced my decision at all. It was just the people in that town and the community around South Dakota State. It's really impressive. Recently they have new Coach Rogers, come in, and honestly, I could care less who's at the reins, but it's going to be a great couple of years. And like I said, it wasn't any coaches that influenced my decision at all. It's just the community is amazing. Brookings is a very great town, and obviously campus is amazing. So that's what the decision came down to, and just people. So like I said, I could care less who's coaching, as long as there's great people around it, have a blast. And play great football. Obviously, the level they play is insane, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. So
that's huge. I mean, that's huge when you hear that, when you say the community swoons you, the community swayed you, the school just itself that swayed you. That's big. That says a lot about that community and how much they probably really care about the players and football. But there's certain, like I live in Ohio State, even though it's big and it's huge out here, it's still like everything. Like if you graduate from Ohio State, like you're set for life, like jobs, everything. Like people love Ohio. Like if you go to Ohio State and you played for Ohio State, like they love you for life. You know what I mean? Like
for
everybody,
sure.
that's just the way it is. So I could say it's probably like that the same way. Like once you went there and played, made your mark, they're always going to remember you, and you're always going to have a place in that community for life, no matter what. So that's an awesome thing. So any shout outs to anybody or anything before we head off here, Daniel?
Shout out to my new coach, Coach Bibbs. Really excited. This will be his first year at South Dakota State, and ended up being his first ever kid recruited and first kid obviously committed to him. So really excited for what's coming, and obviously shout out South Dakota State Jackrabbits, and shout out to Winneconne football. We're really excited about this coming year, and just gonna come out with a revenge tour. So we'll call it the revenge tour and come out and do great and go off to South Dakota State. So really excited.
And there it is. And we really appreciate you jumping back on. I know you're a busy man. I know you got a lot of things going on. So I definitely appreciate you taking out your time for us getting this second interview. Much success to your senior season. We'll probably be talking again, before you go head off to college. But awesome time. Really thank you for taking your time out once again. So for Big Game James, Mr. Daniel Simon, Mr. South Dakota State Jack Rabbit signee, we'll be talking to you soon. We're out of here. Peace.